So, welcome to Mikon's Hardware. Today I'm going to try a unique setup where I'm going to try to test a Panshi X99 motherboard live. I have no idea if it's going to go well or not really well because I have not tested this setup and my web camera is really horrible. It was what I was able to find in my stash. I bought this camera like 10 or even 15 years ago in China, but it still happens to work. The second webcam will be pointed to the Panshi motherboard, but first let's talk about Huananzhi X99TF heatsink that people are constantly asking about. So this is the heatsink that I am using instead of the Huananzhi fans. It's important to understand that I'm not replacing the heatsink itself. Let's take a look at the Huananzhi X99TF motherboard and see what they have there. X99TF, and of course, as always, if there is something wrong with the audio, just let me know and I will try to fix it, and with the stream as well. So here is the motherboard, and you can see here two fans which are mounted on top of a radiator. What I do, I remove these two fans and put their M.2 heatsink on top of a thermal pad. I do not replace the radiator itself, so that's what I have done, and this is the heatsink I have been using. And if you're interested, I have sent a link in the chat, you can find it there, and you can buy this heatsink and install it there. Okay, now let's go to the testing itself. This is how my setup is gonna look like. Let's hope that everything is kinda working. Let's see if my Logitech web camera is actually working. Yes, it's working. This camera has a very annoying feature to just turn itself off, and then I have to display, I have to plug it and unplug it to make it work again. Someone is asking about E5-2650 V3 review. I pause it. Maybe I will do that, but I think it's a kind of pointless CPU. Okay, so let's start with taking a look at the motherboard, and this is rather unique motherboard because it has a PCI slot. Here you can see it. I don't have anything to test this slot with, unfortunately, but we also have two PCiExpress X16 slots, then we have two PCiExpress X1 slots, 4 memory slots for DDR4 memory, and the socket itself, of course. Then we have two M.2 slots, one M.2 for Wi-Fi. We have power and reset buttons, LED indicator, and 10 SATA 3 ports. I have already plugged everything here, but I have not yet tested the motherboard. I did not start anything, so that's what I'm gonna do here live. For this testing, I have collected my usual testing gear, starting with Samsung T5 SSD, which is gonna test the USB 3 ports. Then I have M.2 drive, which is Nvme. I also have an M.2 drive, which is SATA, and I have got a bunch of graphics cards. My Nvidia GT 710, which has just PCiExpress X1 connector. It's for the PCiExpress X1 slots, and to test dual GPU setup, I have got GTX 1650. It is PCiExpress X16, and GTX 750, which is also PCiExpress X16, and that's what we are supposed to test now. So I still don't get any comments regarding audio and the video. Does it go well? Can someone please give me a thumb up or a thumb down if I shall adjust anything? Other than that, I think it's time to start the test results. I'm gonna connect my remote video capture card, and I need power, which I of course forgot to connect. I have connected everything to the motherboard but didn't connect the power, so now I'm gonna connect the power, and let's get ready for the first start. And it starts. I'm not sure if you can see postcodes on the video. Yes, you see the postcodes, which is good. Thanks for the thumbs ups. Now we can see the happy beep, and we are booting. I didn't click delete fast enough to get into the BIOS, but anyway, for those who are in Discord, and for those who are not yet in Discord, feel free to join my Discord, and there you can also ask questions. Okay, so since we are in Windows, let's start with Ada64 and take a look what we have for the chipset and what we have for the memory setup. Let's start with motherboard, chipset. And the good news that we are getting Intel C612 chipset, which is not a cheap B85. Then to the chipset we have connected this is I'm not sure what it is actually, but some kind of a PCI Express bridge, and then we got a Realtek Gigabit Ethernet controller. Let's see what we have here. Nothing interesting, but we have got C612. Now let's take a look at SPD information. It shall be 4 sticks, 8 GB each from G.Skill, and after that I'm gonna run memory test to see if we have quad channel or dual channel configuration. The BIOS is stolen. See the evaluation only message when you boot the machine. Yes, absolutely. Many Chinese motherboards are actually coming with such BIOS, so I am not surprised at all. Seems like we're getting quad channel memory configuration, which is not bad at all, at least for now. And by the way, this motherboard I have got from one of my subscribers. I have paid for this motherboard, so it's not a free motherboard, but he has helped me to get the motherboard from China, from Taobao, because he was buying one for himself and bought me one as well. So I'm very thankful for that. E5-1660 V3, even base clock is good for gaming. Yes, that's true. 1660 V3 is a good CPU, but if you can put it at like 4 GHz, maybe 4.1, 4.2, that's even better. And I'm gonna update my slides while I do the testing. So this is a C612 chipset. And I have a very clicky keyboard, so if you think that it's very annoying when I click keyboard, then just leave me a comment and I will stop doing that. Other than that, I will keep updating my slides as we go. And the memory test is about to finish, so after that I think I will go to CPU Z and see what we have there. And before that, we can also check the audio which is connected. Okay, so quad channel memory configuration test completed. Let's see what we have on motherboard. Does not detect anything, like it doesn't know what the motherboard is. It's unknown motherboard. That's fine. Let's take a look at CPU ID. Having 1660 V3 detected, all good. Okay, now let's take a look at CPU Z. What do we see here? CPU Z, BCLK is actually staying almost 100 MHz, which is not bad. Mainboard Panshi X99-D4 Plus. Okay, at least CPU Z detects some name. Memory quad channel 32 gigs, all good. Fine, now let's open Crystal Disk Info and see what is the SATA connection for my SSD drive. And of course it does not detect because I'm using a very old Intel SSD, unfortunately. Okay, so let's check HW monitor and see if we have fan speed registered and if we have temperature sensors as well as power consumption sensors. So we have 13 degrees Celsius for the motherboard temperature, which is impossible because my room temperature is more than 20 degrees Celsius. Means we have non-functioning temperature sensors. CPU temperature sensors are okay, but package power consumption, that's kind of stupid. Let's see what's gonna happen if I'm gonna run a simple stress test with a CPU Z. When people are asking if they are allowed to ask something, I am just very much amused, because by asking if you're allowed to ask something, you're already asking a question. Just go ahead and ask the question. So let's go to the bench and see what will be the speeds. 3.3 GHz on all cores, which is good. And then for single core, let's see what's gonna be. and for a single core it's supposed to be 3.5 gigahertz as far as I remember, but doesn't seem to go to 3.5. Might be that CPU C6 state is disabled in the BIOS. Anyway, we can see that power consumption sensors are not working and temperature sensors are not working as well. Fine. Let's reboot and go into the BIOS. And while it's rebooting, I can read some comments and see what I can answer. What does code 73 mean? I have this code on first run. When I reboot, it's AA X99F8 E5-1660 V3. I honestly have no clue what this code means, but I also have the same thing. So here we are in the BIOS. Let's see what we have here. Starting with hardware monitor, we see CPU temperature and CPU fan. So seems like we have got the first oopsie. CPU temperature is not reported correctly. There is no way my CPU is running at 21 degrees Celsius. CPU fan speed is not detected, even though you can see here that I have connected 4-pin fan to the CPU fan header. So, an oopsie. Let's see what Smart Fan does. Smart Fan seems to be in place, but if it's working or not, we will see a bit later. Let's see if we have sleep mode. Yes, sleep mode seems to be enabled. We will check that a bit later. What else here? Nothing much interesting here. Let's go to Intel RC setup. Advanced power management, CPU C state. Yes, no, CPU C6 was enabled and the C3 is disabled, so that's how it shall be. Okay. Now let's take a look at the memory and see if we have any memory timings configuration. Unfortunately, it seems like we don't have RAM timings configuration. We only have memory speed. Memory speed shall be possible to overclock to DDR4 2400. Memory topology, we have channel 0, 1, 2, 3, so it's quad channel memory configuration. All good, but too bad we don't have RAM timings configuration. I'm not surprised, but it is what it is. Overclocking feature is enabled, and I will try that a bit later. First, I'm gonna leave it as is. Nothing interesting here. Okay, so in the BIOS, we have got non-working Smart Fan function, and we do not have a RAM timings configuration. Well, that's kind of expected, and it's kind of bad. So exiting without save, and I'm probably gonna shut it off now and try to swap some components and see how this stuff is working with the other components, but I have let it go and now it's gonna boot up. So let's power it off. Let's see what comments say. Graphic card in the motherboard. Right now it's Nvidia GT 710, which I'm gonna swap with the PCIe X16 option because 710 is PCIe X8. How much RAM it was? It is 32 gigs, 8 GB each. Let's plug this one out and let's take the 750 in the first slot into here. Now into here. Okay, here it goes, and the 1650 is gonna go into the second slot. I hope the motherboard will recognize where the monitor is connected, otherwise I will have to reboot and reconnect the monitor. Okay, so now this is supposed to be dual X16 configuration. I think I need to screw this one up on the top so it stays here stable. Okay, let's start it again and see if it boots like this. Question to everyone, or rather a demand to everyone. If you're asking me a question, can you please at me so I can see instantly that the question was to me and not to someone else? Otherwise, it's kind of hard to follow up with the conversations that you're having with yourself and not with me. Hello from Panshi Dispatcher. Hi, Alice. It's nice to see you here. Okay, so seems like the motherboard doesn't recognize what is the main graphics card and it's connecting to 1650, so I gotta replug the monitor. Come on, show me something. Yeah, it seems like I gotta reboot it. Let's power it off. Okay, it's not powering off. I'm gonna make it hard way like this. Let's see if it's gonna be any better this time, but if I plug in the monitor into this graphics card, it's not showing up anything. So, okay, this graphics card is recognized, so for some reason motherboard thinks this is the main graphics card, this one in the second slot. So let's see how it goes. What do we have this time? I also have GPU-Z to validate PCI-Express connectivity, which is hopefully gonna be 2 graphics cards, X16. Now GPU-Z is lagging behind. I think I need to wait until Nvidia drivers kick in. Come on, Nvidia, don't be so slow. Nvidia control panel. You are not currently using a display attached to an Nvidia GPU. What the heck? I am using Nvidia GPU. Should I buy an X79 motherboard or X99? I know X79 are cheaper. You shall definitely buy X99 because X79 is only for ultra budget gamers. Okay, seems like something is wrong with Nvidia drivers. They either crashed or something. Let's see if they open this time. Yeah, Nvidia drivers are doing some crazy stuff and it seems like they are crashing. Or what's going on here? Okay, finally we have got Nvidia drivers, and yes, so we are detecting 1650 and 750. Let's see system information. Good, we have 1650 and 750. Now let's use GPU-Z to see the connected width for each GPU. If you can afford X99, then go for it. X99 is a more modern architecture with better IPC. That's completely true, and you shall definitely go for X99 because X79 is only for the ultra budget computers. So 1650 is connected as PCI-Express 3.0 X16. That's good. So the second slot is actually PCI-Express X16. Let's see the first one. And the GD750 also connected as PCI-Express X16, but don't be fooled by this 1.1 because the graphics card will degrade its speed to 1.1 if it's not under load. Let me try to replug video to the 750 and see if it's actually gonna output something. Like, I know that the graphics card is fully functional. Yes, and it works here. Let's see if we flip. And flip back. It shall be PCI-Express X3. Oops. GPU-Z, did you crash? No, it didn't crash, but it just decided to hide itself. Okay. For some reason it's hiding itself, but maybe it's me trying to cause this. Let's also take a look in the task manager. What do we have here? We have 1650 as the primary GPU, even though it's installed into the second slot. And we have 750 as the secondary GPU. So this is both good and bad news. Good news is that both of the slots are PCI-Express X16 and they are working with the dual GPU configuration. The bad news is that the second slot is the primary slot, and most likely if you're using CPU like i7 5820K or i7 6800K, you will have to keep your graphics card in the secondary slot because the first one will be PCI-Express X8. Okay, let's take these ones out and try some NVMe ports. Okay, 1650 is out and 750 is also going to be out because it's just too big to stay here, and I prefer to test with my GT710. But shall I take this one first? Yeah, I guess I'm gonna test this one first. Shaking window is a window gesture to hide other windows. That's why GPU Z hid. Oh, okay, well, that's nice to know. I will probably use this feature from now on because quite often I want to hide all other windows. Let's see. Okay, so now this GD710 with PCI Express X1 connection is gonna kick in and we're gonna see if it's recognized. So this one is not very stable inside the slot because there is no click in like this one to keep the GPU. That's why I have to screw it in so it stays there pretty tight. And I'm gonna screw this one as well. Okay, power back on, click on, and let's see what we're gonna get from the motherboard this time. And while it's starting, I'm gonna read some comments. Me const, we missed for Far Cry gameplay at last live English 10k subscriber stream due to time. Will we get one in this? Why would you want Far Cry live? Like, you can just run the game benchmark yourself. You don't need it live, right? I think it would be more interesting if I show you my task manager. And let's see if yeah, I think I can do it like this. Let me try to hide this stuff. So here is my task manager, and E5-2698 V3 with Turbo Boost unlock and the hyperthreading disabled is working pretty hard to stream this video. But let's go back to the Panshi X99, which we're testing today. Seems like Nvidia drivers are doing some weird stuff again. It was just showing the desktop and now it's black. That's pretty weird. Let's hope that it's gonna change something. Nope, nothing is changing. Let's try to connect to PCI Express X1 GPU and see if that one is gonna show something. Okay, here we go. For some reason, Nvidia drivers are not kicking in yet. Probably will take a while, like the last time. And yeah, Nvidia drivers are doing something. Let's take the task manager and see. We have 710 and 710, so at least two GPUs are recognized. That's good. Let's see if Nvidia drivers are recognizing both of the GPUs. System information. Yeah, we already can see here that it's 2x GeForce GD710. E5-2678 V3 is the same as E5-2680 V3. The only difference is that E5-2678 V3 is an OEM version which was made for Amazon and other providers like that to work with DDR3 memory. So here we see that PCI Express X1 slot is working okay. I have my GD710 connected and the display output is going through the PCI Express X1 graphics card. It's this one, so all good here. Now let's power it off and see what we have from the M.2 slots. I think I might have forgotten to take an M.2 Wi-Fi card for this testing, but if we will have time, I will pick one from my lockers behind me and get it. Let's do GT710 SLI. I would gladly do that, but as you can see, there are no SLI connectors on top of the graphics card, so I'm sorry to disappoint, but you have to talk to Nvidia so they can supply me a special SLI adapter for Nvidia GT710. Okay, let's take this little baby out and see what we can test next. Let's try to plug in NVMe SSD and see if we're getting PCI Express 3.0 or 2.0 connection. I think I need my screwdriver. Yeah, always trying to prepare everything and never getting everything prepared, so I had to scroll back on my wheel and get a screwdriver. So now it's time to inject the NVMe drive. It's kinda annoying to do it when you're sitting. I usually do it when I'm standing and not on this table, but this time I'm gonna try to do it live. I hope you're not too bored. Would you rather buy the E5-2670 plus X99-TF plus RAM from the usual post in the Huananzhi shop, or would you request the custom kit with the E5-2690 V3 with a personal payment link? I have no idea. Like last time I have talked to the Huananzhi store, they did not have 2690 V3 at all. So you can obviously ask them, but I don't think they will give it to you because they don't have it. And I think I will keep this video live. I mean, I will keep it on YouTube even after the live stream goes off. But we'll see. If it's gonna be too bad, I will delete it. So the good news that the motherboard has PCIe 3.0 x4 as PCIe 3.0 x4. So the first slot is PCIe connection and it's PCIe 3.0 x4. That's very good. I hate when Chinese are making this one to be PCIe 2.0 and this one PCIe 3.0 because you want to have your SSD not under the graphics card, otherwise it might overheat. Let's, for the sake of testing, run a Crystal Disk Mark and see how that stuff works. Oh yeah, I first need to initialize the disk because this is a completely new SSD and I did not initialize it yet. Okay, now let's make a new simple volume. It's gonna be D, new volume. Yeah, that's gonna do it. Now let's see, now I need to restart Crystal Disk Mark. Okay, now we have D. And as I always do, let's open Task Manager and see how this stuff does. D drive, resize it a bit so it all fits on the screen. And let's run the benchmark and see how it does. That set of beeps reminds me of the war declaration on Hearts of Iron 4. I have never played Hearts of Iron 4, but that's a nice game, I think. I liked to watch other people playing the game. I think it's tactical, strategical, and also a little bit moral. You can make your decisions. I wonder if Windows keeps aligning newer NVMe on sector 2048. I have no clue. Oh, I'm getting a bit thirsty. So the speeds for the NVMe drive seems to be as it's supposed to be. I have already requested an E5-2690 V3 is available from Huananzhi shop. I was interested in knowing if you would just stick with the normal Huananzhi sales or try custom requests. I think it always worth to try a custom request, and even though I really like the Huananzhi official store on Aliexpress, they always provide very good service and I have no complaints about them, but I have to say that they have rather bad prices. Like a few times I've been talking to them and trying to get a package deal. I was thinking to buy like 10 or 20 motherboards plus CPU for my business, but the price they provide is not good at all. And when I'm asking like, what the heck, like why? They just, well, this is our policy, these are our prices. So if they give you a good price for 2690 V3, absolutely go for it. If they give you an outrageous price, well, skip it. I would really like a good 2TB NVMe, but it's a bit expensive. Well, if you really want a 2TB or 1TB NVMe, depends on your location, but at the moment you can take a look at Amazon. They have Crucial P1 and P2 SSDs for very good price. Like, it's not the best SSD, but it's much better than SATA SSDs, and for that money I would definitely go for it. Have you ever considered getting a perm? Your hair is long and luxurious now. I'm sorry to say, but I actually don't know what you mean by perm, and I am considering to cut my hair as soon as I can, but due to pandemics I'm kinda stuck at home and advised, or rather how they do in Sweden, they strongly advise not to go out unless you really need to. That's why I'm trying to postpone. Question: what would you advise for a student in 3D for software development and 3D, and the budget is around $300 US? Well, the question is what this budget is for. Is it for entire computer with the motherboard, with the CPU, memory and everything, plus monitor, keyboard, headset, or $300 is just motherboard, CPU and memory? Also, what kind of graphics card you want? Like, this is really different. I wish I could read Cyrillic. Well, you can read Cyrillic with help of Google, like it's not a big problem. I can read Cyrillic because I was born in Ukraine and I speak Russian in Ukraine. Like, Russian is my second native language, so I have no problems with Russian. Okay, well, my hair is actually curling by itself if I let it grow, so I don't need to do something extra about it. But I don't really like it. I like when my hair is short, it's easier to treat, and I'm not overheating. Okay, I'm thinking to just stop this benchmark because it's taking quite some time and it's getting boring, or I will just let it finish. And the next one will be the real challenge for Panshi X99. We will see how the USB 3.0 are doing with this Samsung T5, which has crashed many Chinese X99 and X79 boards that I have tested. What's my career? I work as a software developer full-time, and my YouTube and PC assembly business is just a side hobby. So the good news is that NVMe, at least the first board, works pretty okay. No issues detected. Now it's time to connect this little beast, or this little spoiler, and see if the USB ports are working correctly. At least it's detected. Now we can see here Samsung portable SSD T5. Let's start back the crystal disk mark, selecting the G drive, which is my Samsung portable crystal disk info with the information about my super reliable and super good Samsung T5. I'm very happy with this portable SSD. So, oh, one more thing. I need the clock timer. How do I get it? Clock, alarms and clock. Okay, here it is. Let's get the stopwatch. That's my the go-to way to see if the system is hanging or not. So let's start the timer and let's start the test. And here we can see how the system is doing. Usually the first test is going through with no issues, and then on the second test the system is completely hanging or partially hanging. Depends on how bad the motherboard USB 3.0 implementation is. Let's see if there are any more questions to answer. What is your preferred computer language, Python or C#? C#, absolutely C#. Python is a disaster in my opinion. So what's the best from the best combinations, X99 dual CPU and best CPUs I can get? Any turbo boost? Avoid dual socket motherboards. Don't buy it, buy a single socket, that's much better. And we have got malfunctioning or defective USB 3.0 ports as expected. Unfortunately, this Panshi X99 is not any better than other Chinese stuff. USB 3.0 ports, or maybe it is better. Let's see. Like, at least the system did not crash yet. And usually for this benchmark it will take like 5 to 7 minutes, and the bad motherboards can take up to 25 minutes, and the worst one can crash at all. So we'll see how this one goes. I hope, or I wish, I could fast forward it, but obviously this is live, so I can't do it. This is not NVMe. This is an SSD portable USB 3.0. I don't want to touch it, but it's connected over here through USB port. It's Samsung T5. It's not NVMe. That's what I do at work every day. I don't quite understand. Are you talking about programming languages? Go, C, Shell, and Python. Well, you can go any language you feel like going. I'm just saying my preference. I think C# is way better than Python. Python is a disaster which was developed for no good reason. And of course many people will not agree with me, and let them be. I'm not gonna argue about that. It's just my opinion. Are you planning to sell any builds on SwickLockers again soon? Every now and then I do sell some builds on SwickLockers, but if you're interested you can text me on Discord, or you can text me on Instagram, or just send me an email and I will tell you what I have. I plan to build a Machinist X99-Z build with the E5-1660 V3, so that will go on sale. SSD interface. Well, it's technically SATA, like USB 3.0 and SATA 3.0 are kind of the same, so not quite sure what to say, but Crystal Disk Info detects it as SATA 3.0. Let's see, I probably have missed a bunch of questions which I supposed to answer, but please ask it again if I did not answer. Clisra X99-D4 with 4 slots DDR4 RAM, please. That's a garbage, avoid it and don't buy it for the sake of maintaining X99 community healthy. Please don't buy the garbage. Like, I think this motherboard, this Panshi X99, which I'm currently testing over here, this is reincarnation of that Plex HD X99 whatever, or Clisra X99-D4 with 4 memory slots. I live in Sweden. I was born in Ukraine, but at the moment I live in Sweden. Python is more compatible, but I could be wrong. Well, it depends on what you call compatible. Like, compatibility is a very broad term. Did you activate Turbo Boost in JingSha dual CPUs? Yes, I have implemented Turbo Boost Unlock with the JingSha dual motherboard, but it was only possible with the manual EFI driver installation. It didn't work with the injecting FFS driver in the BIOS. BIOS engineer told me that it's possible to do that, but you have to donate for his BIOS development. Well, that's what he told me. I'm not asking you to donate. If you want to donate, you donate. If you don't, you don't. What is the best 2011 version 3 motherboard for 85 USD with good VRAM on Aliexpress? I think that would be Huananzhi X99-B4 or Huananzhi X99-A4 if you can find it. Jag pratar inte svenska, förlåt. Min svenska är inte så bra. Okay, while this Crystal Disk Info benchmark seems to be hunning, but not completely hunning, maybe we shall go to AliExpress and take a look what we have there, since people are asking. But we can... Oh, okay. No, we are not going to AliExpress because the system has locked. You can see that the timer has stopped running and the progress bar has stopped, and we are hunting at the second benchmark. Yeah, this is typical Chinese X99 USB 3.0 misbehavior, and I really hate it, and I don't know what Chinese are doing wrong, but this is just it is. And the bad thing is that in this state, your system is completely irresponsive. Like, I'm clicking the start menu, it does not work. I'm trying to drag something, it doesn't work. But maybe I can try to stop the benchmark because I don't want to make another hard restart. I could do though. Let's see. Yeah, I think for the sake of the live stream, so don't waste time, I will just power it off. And what we know that USB 3.0 ports on this motherboard do not function well or are not functioning well. Ukraina отчизна моя. In Ukrainian we are saying Батьківщина. Anyway, let's do what I'm gonna do now. Okay, now I'm gonna swap the NVMe SSD into the other M.2 slot so I can see if that one is PCI Express 3.0 or 2.0. This one goes out, and then gonna swap the NVMe to see what's gonna happen with the second NVMe slot. Okay, here it goes, putting the screw back in, and it goes into the second one. Come on, get out of here. Sometimes it's a bit tricky because this, not sure if you can see it on the camera, but I will try to show. Like, the branded motherboards come with a tiny NVMe screw, but the Chinese ones are coming with a giant NVMe screw, so it looks kind of like this. And with this crucial SSD, it's not a problem at all because it does not have any components around the screw, but I had some other SSDs which had components right next to the screw, and it was pretty hard to find another screw which is with a smaller head to be able to screw it in and do not touch those extra components. So that's a bit annoying, but luckily with this crucial SSD it's not an issue at all. Okay, let's put the graphics card back in, power back in, and starting again. And while it starts, I'll try to read. If you use different BIOS, does USB 3 behavior change? On some motherboards, yes, but not on every motherboard. For example, Machinist X99-RS9 has pretty bad USB ports with the stock BIOS, but they are working okay with the Huananzhi X99-8MF BIOS. I speak computers, but there is a good German tag who builds old tech computers. Thule Tame. Fun to listen to German tech talk. Unfortunately, I don't speak any German, so it's very hard for me to listen to German tech talk, but sometimes I watch D. Bauer. He is making excellent videos, but he's making it in English and German, so I obviously watch the English version. Let's see, what do we have here? Oh la la! The second PCI Express NVMe slot is also PCI Express 3.0 X4. This is actually the first Chinese X99 motherboard with two proper PCI Express 3.0 X4 slots. All other motherboards I have tested with two NVMe slots were either NVMe plus SATA or it was 3.0 and 2.0, but this one has two NVMe M.2 slots PCI Express 3.0 X4. Let's run the benchmark for the sake of tests, and if the speed is correct, then we have got first motherboard with the two M.2 slots for NVMe SSD drives PCI Express 3.0 X4. Are planning to review some cabinets, cases, saw your bulk order Instagram post. I have bought a bunch of Colink chassis for myself to do some system builds. Let me try to find a picture of what I have bought. And let me see. It was Colink Phalanx version 2 ARGB. I will, while NVMe SSD test is running, I think I can show it here. Yeah, you can see it here. So I have bought this one and I have built a computer inside this chassis. Seems to be pretty decent. So far, I do not plan to do any reviews about the chassis, but I might be getting another person who is gonna work with me on the YouTube channel, and he might be doing these reviews, but it's not decided yet. You must hate that this board is beeping. Well, I dislike it, but this board beeper is not that noisy as it happens to be with other motherboards, so I don't think I exactly hate it, and I think it's nice when it beeps on the live stream. But for myself, I would definitely just remove this sticker and screw in there so it just silences itself. Have you seen those refurbished HP X99 C610 chipset servers. Yes, I have seen those, but I don't really like them, and I don't want to spend my money buying on them for testing, but if someone donates me, I will gladly test it. Someone is asking me to say thus, like, okay, thus what? And a question about the student budget build. I think in your case, if you have $300 US, I would probably go with Machinist X99 RS9 and the Xeon E5-1660 V3. That would probably be my choice, but see for yourself. If you can stretch up your budget, you can get a bit better motherboard, such as Huananzhi X99-D4, if you need that. Are you going to try custom BIOS on the test? I might try Huananzhi X99TF BIOS on the test if I have enough time. But anyway, let's go back to testings. We see that the second NVMe slot works, so I can safely stop it. And then I'm gonna try some overclocking and see if that shit works. So let's shut it down. Then I will take off the NVMe SSD, and then we're gonna try some overclocking. I've seen on one of your previous videos that some X99TF-F8 EDC have defective BIOS chip. Is it possible to buy them separately and then solder them on the motherboard, flash new BIOS EDC? Yes, absolutely. You can definitely do that. And if I would have soldering capabilities, I would do that. But I am kind of limited with the space and I don't have much soldering experience, so I just don't bother, because like it doesn't limit me in any way. I can use the stock X99TF BIOS. It works for me. It's annoying that I cannot test the BIOS from iEngineer, but it is what it is. I'm excited I'm excited about what you hinted at the very end of your last video. Oh yeah, I have ordered 3 mutants for LJ1151 version 1. These are gonna be interesting tests, but I have no clue when they're gonna arrive to me, so can't promise anything. And I have not yet got any motherboards to test them with, but I plan to get like H110, Z170 and B365 motherboard, so we'll see. Anyway, let's go back into the BIOS and try to do some overclocking with this motherboard. Cheap X99 for E5-2678 V3 with a decent USB 3.0. I think that would be Huananzhi X99-D4 or Huananzhi X99-ZD4. Now let's go to memory configuration, POR disabled, memory frequency. Let's try DDR4 2400, which is the maximum I am usually able to achieve with 1660 V3 on Chinese boards. So save and exit, and let's see if that's gonna give us DDR4 2400. What do you do with the USB? What do you mean, what do I do with USB? I don't do anything with them. They are just staying there. I leave them there be. I don't do anything with them. Like, if you're asking me what I use USB ports for, I have lots of different connectivity. I have 2 microphones connected because I have my old one, Blue Yeti, which is kind of shitty to record for videos. It's staying on top of my monitor and I'm using it for the live stream. And I also have a Shure MV7 for video recording, which is connected somewhere behind my back. Then I have obviously keyboard, mouse. I also have USB headset connected, and then now I have 2 webcams connected. So how do you find out the all-core turbo? You check it on Intel specification website. So let's go and check the memory. The memory is working DDR4 2400, which is good, but let's also check the AIDA64. Let's go, tools, cache and memory benchmark. Let's start with the benchmark. And yes, it is working as DDR4 2400. So this Panshi X99 can overclock memory with the CPUs which have unlocked multiplier. You will not be able to do that with locked CPUs. I'm constantly asked about it You had your memory running DDR4 2400. I can't do that with my E5-1670 V3. Well, too bad, you can do it only with unlocked CPUs. I saw many of your reviews of X99 motherboards. While they are OK to run ECC registered DDR4, is there any of that motherboards that can use this ECC function? As far as I know, all motherboards which have BIOS from iEngineer, they have ECC support, so these motherboards run in ECC configuration. But also, as far as I remember, Huananzhi X99-TF and F8 also running in ECC mode, but Machinist X99Z for sure does not run in ECC mode with the default BIOS. So hard to say on top of my head, but if you want to make sure, then take a motherboard which has BIOS option from iEngineer. Have you ever tested E5-2696 V3? No, I have not tested that CPU because Chinese are selling it for outrageous amount of money. Okay, so memory overclocking is working. Now it's time to try to overclock the CPU. Hello to everyone, and thanks for everyone who is giving me a thumbs up or a like, how YouTube is calling it. My X99Z run with ECC. Well, running with ECC memory and working in ECC configuration is a different thing. So first I'm gonna load the optimizer defaults, and then okay, so if I load optimizer defaults, the overclocking feature is gone from the BIOS. So now I have to save, exit, reboot, and then the overclocking feature will be back to the BIOS. You can't see the RAM model. Right now I am running G.Skill DDR4 3200 CL14 modules, which are used for basically all my tests. But we will see. Okay, now we are here. Overclocking feature is back. Now enable overclocking feature. Let's go to processor and let's set max OC ratio to 38. That shall be enough to run with the stock voltage. Save and exit and see if that works. When will Bitcoin price drop? Why do you ask me? Like, it's not I am sitting here and setting the price for the Bitcoin, right? Speaking of ECC, I have got here 4 sticks of 32 gigabyte Samsung ECC registered memory, and if we have time I will swap the memory, and we're gonna test that as well and see if PassMark memtest 86 is actually detecting that the ECC is enabled. Yeah, seems like the motherboard doesn't really work with overclocking. We are getting both code 61 or 19. I am not sure where is the top and where is the bottom of this LED indicator, but let's try one more. Power off. Could you test E5-2660 V3 CPU later? It's an OEM version of the 2697W V3, but it's much cheaper. Well, if I can get it for a decent amount of money, then I will definitely test it, but right now the price is just stupid. So in today's GPU apocalypse, we have right now building a gaming or workstation PC should be really hard and expensive. Yeah, that's unfortunately true, and actually I'm having a very big struggles to deal with my stock. Like, I have some parts that I was buying to build computers and sell, but because I don't have GPUs and I can't buy GPUs, like, I just don't have an option to sell it for profit or even without a loss. What is the best budget motherboard suitable for Xeon? Okay, I will read questions a bit later because first I need to deal with this motherboard which does not boot after enabling overclocking. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna remove the battery, so this clear CMOS will happen every time I power it off with the power supply. And let's wait for a little while. Cycle it off and power it back on, and come on, get yourself started. Yeah, now it's starting. That seems like removing the battery did not clear CMOS because we are stuck at 1.9 code again. Oh, I It's so annoying when these Chinese motherboards do not clear CMOS when you actually remove the battery. Let's try the clear CMOS jumper and see if that helps. Wait for a little while, and while I'm waiting, I might read some questions. What is the best budget motherboard suitable for E5-2660 V3 and can be overclocked? Come on, E5-2660 V3 has locked multiplier. You cannot overclock the CPU, but the best budget suitable motherboard would be Huananzhi X99-D4 and Huananzhi X99-D4 Let's see. Well, there is a jumper and I'm trying it right now. Let's see if actually flipping the clear CMOS jumper helped. So let's try it again. What's gonna happen? The motherboard? Nope. Okay, this Chinese piece of art is not clearing BIOS after I do the clear CMOS. What do we do next? Do I take my USB flash programmer and try to fix this shit? Or we stop the live stream because obviously it does not make sense to test a motherboard which does not boot. Does this motherboard have a jumper to disable the onboard beeper? As far as I can tell, it doesn't, but let me take a look. Maybe it does have it somewhere. No, I actually don't see the jumper to disable the beeper, so most likely it doesn't have it. Let me try to clear CMOS for one more time, and if that does not work, I will have to do something about it. And probably I will have to pull out my CH3418 and the bad stuff or the good stuff that I don't have the BIOS backup. I don't think I have fried the motherboard, but I definitely did something wrong. Or I know what I can do. I can install CPU which does not support overclocking, and that might save me. Why there are no other company other than Chinese ones making X99? Well, there are. They were making them a long time ago when the platform was new. Looks like it has the same problem as X99Z version 102. Yes, exactly. This is the problems, and it's just so frustrating because I don't have any options to test the BIOS configuration. But let me see if this actually did something by trying to wait for a bit longer. Seems like it didn't change anything, but at least I can hope, right? Nope. Hope did not help. Okay, I will try to change the CPU and see if that helps, because usually replacing the CPU with the one which does not support overclocking might help. So I have to dig into my Okay, so I'm gonna take this one, which I found first, E5-2690. This was my CPU, which I was using before. And I'm first gonna put this M.2 screw back into the screw holder, so I don't lose it. And let's do the CPU transformation. It's kinda tricky to do it while sitting, so I'm gonna stand up and do it standing. I don't want to bend those CPU pins while swapping the CPUs. But if this piece of art does not boot after swapping the CPUs, well, I don't know what else I can do, because I'm stupid enough not to have the BIOS backup, so I cannot reflash the BIOS. But probably I can read the BIOS, and then I can adjust the settings in the Nvme CP and flash it back. That's supposed to clear the settings, but we'll see. Now I need to figure out where I keep this giant piece of metal so it does not fall. Okay, I just unplug it. Okay, so let's take some paper and wipe this thermal paste, or it's actually not a thermal paste, it's a Chinese toothpaste which they are adding with every motherboard. I have got a bunch of it, so I just need to waste it for something. Let's try to swap the CPUs and see if it helps in any way to get a non-overclockable CPU. Yeah. Corner to corner. Let's get this one. This one goes out. Put it somewhere on the table. This one goes in. Okay, here we go. Now I need to put the thingy back in. Let's connect the CPU cooler. By the way, this is kind of a, I'm not sure if you can see it, I hope you can see it. This is like a resistor to reduce the fan speed rotation. Otherwise, this Intel OEM cooler is extremely loud and it can spin up to more than 3000 RPM, I think. So let's screw it back in. I don't actually need to screw it too hard because first you need to make sure that it actually boots. If it doesn't boot, it doesn't make sense to bother. Okay, plugging back in, and well, let's hope that this time this thing is starting. Doesn't seem to be starting though. Oh, we see different postcodes. There is a hope. There is a hope. Let's go. Come on, please boot. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I'm gonna load optimize the defaults, save and exit, and I'm gonna put my 1660 into this small container, so it's gonna be safe. While this stuff is booting up, I'm gonna read some comments. Seems like people are not tagging me, so I assume there are no questions to me. Perfect. Now we are getting the thingy running again. At least I'm saved for now. Have you ever heard of a Micro ATX dual socket motherboard? Micro ATX dual socket? No, I have not heard of anything like that. I don't quite understand what Vlado Katsupiev is saying. Sorry, I'm not quite sure. I can't really read it. But anyway, here we are, and the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use my marvelous tool to try to make backup from the BIOS of this motherboard. I'm just gonna try to assume that it works with the FBT, and let's create dump current BIOS. So dump BAT, running as administrator, and let's see if that's gonna help us. Nope, that does not help us because we do not have access. Okay, fine. Let's try to reboot and see if we have any BIOS lock enabled in the BIOS. I will OEM test BIOS only. I've never heard of that motherboard vendor. Yeah, that's nice sarcasm. Why do you use this monster of a fan on a cooler and not a Chinese cooler or a gaming cooler? Because this fan is this cooler is very easy to snap in and snap out from the LJ2011 socket, and that's why I love it so much. And it's also like fan is connected straight to the cooler, so I don't have to remove and reinstall fan again. So sometimes they have PCH configuration, and then there shall be security configuration, BIOS lock. Let's disable this. Host flash lock, disable. Let's disable all of these locks and see if FPT is gonna work this way. Let's do save and exit. Mi 899 does support Chieda X99 H9 because that motherboard works with Huananzhi X99 8MF BIOS, so you don't need any special support for Chieda X99 H9. You just use Huananzhi X99 8MF BIOS. You should provide us a link to buy that cooler. I would gladly do that, but I have no clue where you can buy it. I have got this cooler myself from some disassembled old and broken servers, so I just saved this cooler from that server and get rid of the rest of the server. Like it was broken in some way. So one more attempt. Let's try to dump current BIOS again, and if that doesn't work, then I will have to use CH341A. Nope, doesn't work. Okay, so we have locked BIOS, which is pretty bad. But one more thing we can test is sleep mode. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put this Chinese piece of art to sleep. Let's see. People, if you're asking any questions, like if you're asking questions to me, then please add me because I can't follow up every conversation. So the machine is currently sleeping. Let's click keyboard and see if it wakes up. At least it's... Wow! Look at this. It's waking. So the sleep mode is working with Panshi X99. That's really nice. Okay, let's check if SmartFun is actually working or we have just configuration in the BIOS. So here is CPU fan. As you can see, right now this beast is rotating at 2,500 rotations per minute, or revolutions per minute, how physicians would say. I forgot CMOS battery. No, I did not forget it. I did not put it in on purpose. I just don't want to get into the same issue again. I'm getting my voice lost. Okay, let's go to the bench. Let's pick AVX workload. And let's try to stress CPU and see if the fan speed is gonna increase or decrease. So far, we see that the fan speed is staying at the same level, and for some reason it's even decreasing while the CPU temperature is increasing. Yeah, seems like SmartFun is not working on this motherboard. This is a shame. Like come on, Chinese, how hard could it be to make SmartFun function work? Like, it's the dumbest option on the motherboard. How hard could it be to finally fix it? You should test overclock on this motherboard. I just have tested overclocking on this motherboard and it does not boot if I attempt to overclock, so I'm not gonna do that again. Install Intel XTU, run some tests, go sleep mode, wake up, run some tests again. Well, what happened with the CMOS? Well, CMOS doesn't work. Clear CMOS does not work on this motherboard, which is a shame, but I will see. Maybe BIOS from... Maybe iEngineer can make a BIOS for this motherboard and then it's going to be a decent thing, but right now it's having quite some issues. I am having here some support in form of a little drink. It's non-alcoholic, just for those who are triggered with alcohol. Which PC build you mainly use? I don't quite get what you mean. Like, I mainly use my own computer, which is a i5-2698 V3 at the moment. Let's try to put this machine back to sleep again and see if it's gonna wake up. Okay, trying to wake it up. Hopefully it's gonna wake up. And yes, okay, so sleep mode, at least to a certain extent, it works. SmartFun doesn't work, USB 3 ports do not work. Fine, now let's power it off and try ECC registered memory. X299 chipset for Core i7 CPUs and Core i9 CPUs. Yes, unfortunately, Intel decided to block Xeon support on the X299 chipsets. So now, if you would want to have a Xeon CPU on X299 or LGA2066 motherboard, you need to get a server chipset. It doesn't work with the X299 chipset. So I'm gonna relocate myself and get these memory sticks replaced with a ECC registered memory. And for those who were asking, this is the memory that I'm using. It's G.Skill Flare X DDR4 3200 CL14 memory modules. Like, they are not produced anymore, but they are pretty good, and I can clock them at DDR4 3400 at CL14 if I increase voltage. It's Samsung B-die memory chips, so I use them for basically all testing. And now I'm gonna install these ones. Not sure if my web camera will be good enough to demonstrate, but here you can see these modules. It's 32 GB each, so we will see if the motherboard is capable to do 128 gigs of RAM. Hi there, is there any way to modify the Intel Inside logo after applying Turbo Boost hack? Yes, you can adjust the logo. You can change it to whatever you want, and there is a special tool which can do that for you, but you will have to reflash the BIOS again. So you will have to take the Turbo Boost Unlock BIOS, change the logo, reflash the BIOS, and then you're gonna get the logo you want. I just want to ask if my Xeon E5-2670 in stock frequency, not turbo unlock, can it reach 3.3 GHz when my system apps need 100% usage, or can it reach 3.3 GHz? No, it cannot. If you don't have Turbo Boost Unlock, then your CPU will never go to 3.3 GHz on all CPU cores. This is how it's designed by Intel, and this is how it's supposed to work. So there is nothing you can do about it. There are some branded motherboards which have a built-in feature in the BIOS which is forcing this, but it's just a few of them. Okay, ECC memory installed, or ECC registered memory installed. Let's try to boot up and see if the motherboard will work with 128 gigs of RAM. Where did I put? Okay, so I have my boxes from RAM over there. Meanwhile, while it's starting, let me read some comments. 1151 socket consumer motherboard works Xeon with a disabled Intel management engine or ME version, but X299 looks different. Yes, unfortunately, X299 Chinese decided to completely lock out. I have got X99 or X79. Yeah, it's X79 M80X dual socket motherboard. Well, I think this is not dual, it's not M80X, it's extended M80X. It's slightly bigger. So, and I have not seen that motherboard yet, and I don't think I will ever test it. Like, it does not look trustworthy at all. So what do we have here? We have memory, we have quad channel, 128 gigs. So yeah, ECC registered memory is at least working. So the next step would be to start passmark memtest 86 and see if ECC mode is actually enabled. Hello, would Huananzhi X99TF work with 2 or 3-way crossfire? Wow, yes it would, but why would you do that? It's a completely pointless idea. So let me try to boot from a USB flash drive and see if the ECC mode will actually work. I had a dual socket Asus X79 but sold it. Well, I also had a few dual socket X79 and X99 motherboards, but I don't need them. Like for my usage, single socket is way better than a dual socket, so I don't need them. Okay, we are booting up. Here we are. Let me try to boot from the USB flash drive so I can check if ECC mode is enabled or disabled. Are there any dual socket motherboards that works with the both turbo boost unlock and octo channel features? Yes, it's Huananzhi X99-D4 and Huananzhi X99-F8D. Which motherboard which is available from China. Yes, exactly. These are the two motherboards. So, but as I said, you need to apply the turbo boost unlock with the EFI driver installation. And there seems to be S3 turbo tool, which is capable to inject FFS driver into the BIOS, but I have not tested it myself, so I can't really suggest on that. Craft Computing tested that motherboard in that picture. Okay, well, I might take a look at that video, but the motherboard does not seem to be worth any money at all. Like 2 memory slots per CPU, and you're getting 2 CPUs. Your CPUs will be starving from the lack of memory bandwidth, and the quality is also very questionable, and you're getting very little expansion options. Like the point of these dual socket motherboards is to have lots of PCI-Express slots and lots of memory, but with this motherboard, like, what the heck? Craft Computer opens craft beer. MirComputers opens alcohol-free Heineken beer. To be fair, I did not open it. I have received it open, so that's not the same. Craft Computing is opening them and pouring them out. I will pour it straight into myself. It's breaking my heart. I'm not programmer, sir. I am scared to damage my motherboard. Much percent in the increase of when I turbo unlock E5 Xeon 2678 to turbo boost. Oh, okay. Well, if you're scared, you shall not buy anything from Aliexpress. Like, people shall learn this. If they are scared, Aliexpress is not for them. If you're not willing to risk and if you're not willing to experiment, don't buy anything from Aliexpress. Okay, so here we finally are. Let's see what we have here. ECC enabled, no. So what we can say is that the motherboard does not enable ECC mode by default, which is kinda bad. Well, fine, let's at least try to start. Well, I can also look at the SPD information for people who are interested what I have installed here. So these are the memory modules I have installed. Okay, let's try to start the test and see if the system is going to hang at 16% as it does with many other Chinese motherboard. I just have an old R9 290S Crossfire. It is my only way to gain performance without overpaying for more expensive cards. Well, in that case, if you already have 2 GPUs to Crossfire, then yes, Huananzhi X99TF and X99F8, they do work with Crossfire, and they also work with SLI, if that matters for you. What is the available X99 from China motherboard that has the best VRAM feature? It's X99TF, X99F8, X99T8. It's easy to unlock many motherboards using the Mi899 application, that's true. Let's see, so seems like Panshi X99 does not lock on 16% of Passmark 86. Passmark memtest 86, I mean. So my hard drive that I was expecting arrived, so we'll leave now, and thanks for answering my questions, and hope your channel grows and have a nice day. Thanks to you as well. Fine, so we figured out that the motherboard does not support ECC memory, or rather it supports ECC memory, but memory works in a non-ECC configuration. And pass mark, memtest86 does not HAN at 16% as other motherboards, or some other motherboards do. I guess that's gonna do it for this video. If you have some questions, we can take a look at Aliexpress and see what we find there. But all in all, what did we find out? What do we have for the test results? Smart fan does not work. So this is gonna be red one. Where do I have colors? I think I have it here. Yeah, so this is red. Where are the... Okay, it's over here. I have messed up my setup. So the 3 ports we did not test. USB 3 ports do not work. That's bad. Also marking it in red. PCiExpress X16 works. That's good. PCiExpress X1 works. That's also good. Both NVMe, they also work. Then M.2 Wi-Fi I did not test. LAN and audio did not test. Let's see what we have from features. Sleep mode works, which is nice. Turbo boost works. RAM timings are missing. That's also kind of bad, but it is what it is. Clear CMOS does not work. Also bad. PCiExpress buffercation, I did not test this one, so I will leave this and the other one. Okay, I flushed X99 version 201 using Me899 and it worked perfectly, but you need to pick the right BIOS from the file, of course. Is 1660 V3 good for VFIO? Also, which Aliexpress X99 is good for VFIO? What is VFIO? I'm sorry to ask. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining. I guess the motherboard is a little bit of a disappointment. Unfortunately, we have the standard and non-standard Chinese issues. Smart fan does not work. USB 3.0 ports do not work. Clear CMOS does not work. CPU overclocking doesn't work. Maybe if we get a good BIOS for the motherboard, it will change something. I will try the motherboard with Huananzhi X99-D4 BIOS and with BIOS from iEngineer. But because the motherboard has locked BIOS chip, it's located over here, I was not able to test it on the live stream since FPT doesn't work. I will have to use my CH3418. And yeah, that's probably it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me comments in this video or join my Discord. For now though, that's all I have for you. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, bye bye.